Okay, here you go.
Afternoon, Kansas City. Well, good Sunday afternoon, Kansas City. It is so good to be in front of you guys again and back on the air with KUAW Radio. That is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So before we get started or go any further, I want you guys to check us out across all of the socials. It is very important because that is how you get our message out. And our message is a very unique one, being that we are a Black owned and independent media station, which means that we bring our message across in a very unique way and in a way that only we can. And a way that you can do that and help for free is to visit us across all social media platforms. That is going to be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and the TuneIn app at KUAW Radio. You can also visit us online at kuaw.org. Again, that is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And also, while you're pulling us up, make sure that you like, comment, and share across all of the social media platforms as well. It's good to get us in the algorithm, so that way it'll alert people when we go live, and it will let you know when we have updates. It will keep you informed of new shows and events and different anchors who may come up with different programs, and let you know what's going on new and let you know the happenings and things and going on in Kansas City. So with that being said, we are all impacted by the culture, whether we like it or not, from everything across the span of our lives, from music to entertainment to government to education. The culture impacts us all. And this is where we talk about it, right here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay, again on KUAW Radio, every first and third Sundays from 4 to 5 p.m. I have not been on for, I think it's been maybe the past two Sundays. So that's why I was saying it's been a while. I do thank those of you who have had a chance to communicate with me on. Let's see, I've been on fan base, and I always try to big up fan base now. Fan base is another Black owned one. Is I think is owned by Isaac Hayes' son. But either way, it is a media platform that Isaac Hayes' son formed, and it's like, I would say Twitter. Yeah, I would say like a Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, like all in one. So definitely on Facebook. But as always, you know that I am forever on Clubhouse. I love to talk and have conversations on Clubhouse as well, and I get to do that during the week because it also gives me a chance to combine the students that I do the supervision for, as well as to get feedback from the community. And I do appreciate everyone who helps me out with that. And I say that a lot, that you help me out with that. But really, as you can see, if you are involved with the chats and the conversations that we have, you see that the conversations truly, truly do help the students that are in the Kansas City area. And it helps the college students to get experience, not only in dealing with the public, which is very, very, very important, because in my field, you have to be able to relate to people across the board. And social media is very important. And that is why our presence in social media has become so great now, because that's where everyone is. Everybody is on social media. And it does not matter from young to old. If it is everything from Snapchat to the younger kids, or even You have sites for older people or even games. And here we are. I don't know whether you're visiting us from YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, but you're here and you're on some form of social media. And so social media is becoming that avenue where it is that avenue where everyone is. And it has its own atmosphere. And as you can see, especially being in mental health, it has its own etiquette, it has its own vibe, and you are able to reach people pretty much on the same playing field. Because when you reach people across the screen and you first interact with someone across the screen, you have no idea who that person is. You are not able to just, well, most of the time, you are not able to just look at a person through a screen, through a computer, through your phone, however you do it, and know who they are or what they do. And I absolutely love, and it was actually a student who came up with that commercial. Do I want to call it a commercial? Well, it actually did start off as a commercial, and it went into a training video. But what it was, I think it was with Zoom, but it showed how, I think it was just someone just sitting at the desk and they were talking, but they looked very professional and they were dressed, and he had on his shirt and his tie, but the cat ran across the desk, and when he got up, he didn't have any, his pants on, plus he had his boxers and things on, so it wasn't anything lewd. You didn't see anything like that. But when the video first started, it looked very professional. And this came about because, of course, because of C-19 and the things that happened, and there was this transition into working from home. But still, the point of it all was that outside of just working from home, was that you never know what's going on across that screen. You never know what a person is going through, what a person has, what they don't have, just by looking at how they interact online. And so that in and of itself is coming up and having us to study the behaviors of people online and how we relate to each other online, how the human psyche reacts, and how the human psyche filters what we see online during certain times of the day, during holidays, peak seasons. If you all are familiar with how television works, used to work, definitely was with the Rosen report. And they used to mail them out, the Rosen reports. And they would mail these reports out to families, and it was a survey. And that survey, it just listed all of the programs that came on the TV throughout the day. It had all of the game shows and the news broadcasts, it had soap operas and all of the TV shows. Like when I was growing up, the Cosby Show came on at night, and there's like Hill Street Blues. I know that's something you guys have no idea what it is, and A Different World and those type of shows. But it would ask, do you like this show on this night? And was this a convenient time? And then it would also ask other questions, not like that time, or if you didn't watch this show at this time, like the Cosby Show came on at, I believe it was like 7:00 every night, Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. But it would ask, why did you like this show? Why didn't you like this show? And if you put in there, was it the time? That's how they would gauge when viewers were most likely to watch TV. And that is how they would know when to put certain shows on TV. So if everyone is home and they're done with dinner and everybody is gathered around the TV from 7 to 9, then that is when all of your popular shows are on, and that's when they're going to schedule. So that means that also advertisers who want to have commercials during that time, they are paying top dollar just to have their commercials played during that 7 to 9 or 7 to 10 time slot. Yeah, actually it was 7 to 10 time slot. And then the news came on And then the adults pretty much went to bed after that. Of course, kids were asleep before then. But prior to that, you would have news and things like right after school will probably be like educational programs like Schoolhouse Rock and things like that for the younger kids before they had dinner or right before dinner, something like that. But the Rising Report, it has a lot of questions that dealt with that. I do believe that the Rosin reports are still out. I don't know if they are still as detailed as they are, because I might be hard for some people to believe, but there are people who just don't use social media at all. There are people who still just watch TV, and they still rely on those types of reports. But for people who do that or do both, this is why we are also studying that. Now, of course, educational purposes is what we're doing it for, and for our own clinical reasons. And we have nothing to do with the Rosin Report. We have nothing to do with any television station or anything at all to do with any sponsors or anything like that. This, again, is about, because of my field, it's about the mental health and the psyche. And then if you all have noticed, there's also legislation coming out regarding social media. There's always been a buzz about the impact that certain platforms, FB and IG, have on our youth. And now there's even a lawsuit. And this lawsuit is actually coming from the government. And I have not read it. I have not read it in whole. So I'm not going to speak a whole lot about it, in detail about it, because I haven't read it in its entirety yet. But there is a lawsuit because apparently they have found enough information to say that they found where these platforms have a negative impact on our youth. And it has increased rates of self-deletion, self-harm, and depression in youth. So again, I don't know who performed these studies. I don't know if these studies have been vetted or not, but again, it's coming from the government. So I would have to assume that they are, because everyone can't just do, I was about to say everyone can't do a study, but you can. Anybody can study whatever they want to study, and throw it online if they like to. As you know, everyone says that they've done their research on a topic, but in all honesty, there are regulatory boards that determine how research is done, and you actually present what your research is, your topic, and there are a lot of things that go into it, but you present it, and then it's approved, and you can even get, or not approved, and you can even get funding for it. But just as though you were in school and you learn how to do experiments, and you know that there is a process to doing experiments that you have to follow, that every scientist follows, whether you're a physicist or a chemist or engineer, there is a scientific method that you follow. There is the same thing, even though there may be different techniques, and there are still laws that we have to follow when we do studies. Also, to protect the people who are involved, and in other things, especially in the medical field, to protect humans in studies, to make sure that no harm is done. And then in studies where animals are involved, there's a such thing, as you all know, called animal rights as well. So with all of that being said, everyone can do a study and they can call it a study, but that does not mean that it's vetted and that it is real and that it is accepted and is going to be signed off by a board. And so what happens is, when we finish it and we present it and we put in our findings, and again, everything is vetted. And this is information that you can find online. and look up. It's sort of like when you go to the grocery store or you look on any medication bottle or any food bottle and you look for those stamps and you look for anything that says USDA and that says FDA. Then you know that those things have been inspected by whoever makes that product, that business, that company has these of approval and has gone through its accreditation to make and sell that food. Without it, they're giving it to you illegally. And when that happens, that means that there was maybe some sort of breakdown in how it was made or how it was packaged, and all that will lead to some sort of illness, maybe something that you can get from the food is not being packed correctly. But that is why you have all of these regulatory boards to keep everything, one, done uniformly, and to make sure that the work is done correctly and that it's not only supervised, but that your results can be proven. And so not everybody is just coming up willy-nilly, just bringing things and pulling things out of the sky to suit their own purposes. I'm pretty sure you remember a lot of that tried to take place during the pandemic. You know, I don't want to say that word because if anyone is new here, YouTube flags certain words. So I won't say the long word of that the thing that happened that hit in 2020. I would say C-19, or I call it a panorona or the pandanini or something like that. And then I also won't, when I say self-delete, you know, people do that to themselves. That's what that means. So you have to be careful on here. So please don't think that I'm taking any of those things lightly when I use those words for anyone who's new here. But you have to be aware that social media, especially YouTube, and especially on public platforms such as this and on family programming where children of all ages can listen to it. You have to be aware of the conversations that you have and the words that you use, or else they will flag the videos. For people who actually get paid or monetized, as they call it, they can take away your monetization, which means that if any advertisers pop up, you won't get paid those advertising dollars. People might be able to cash app you, but as far as getting a piece of the pie that the advertisers pay YouTube to pay you to be able to advertise during the time that you're going live online, you won't get that money because you're breaking the community guidelines. So please don't think that I'm making light of any situation when I use a word like that. I'm just trying to stay in the guidelines of the social media platforms. And believe it or not, all of them have different rules, which also brings me back to where I was before. Every platform has its own rules. And as you all know, like Twitter, which just recently changed its name to X, it not only changed its name, it has a new owner as well. But there are things over there that don't even have to be filtered by a certain age. I know when you sign up, gosh, I've had Twitter for so long, I can't even remember if you have to put in your date of birth when you sign up anymore. But either way, when you're on there, there are all sorts of things on that platform, but you can't show those things on, let's say, maybe an FG or even an IG. But then if you do, with the technology of AI that has come out, it will flag it very quickly and it will pull it down and you can lose your page. Now, a lot of those things are bots or are fake profiles that show up just to try to get people to pay for them. And 1,000 of them will show up a day because they'll just, as soon as you delete them, 3 or 4 more will come right back in seconds. So that really doesn't matter. But when it comes to people who are actually monetized and who actually are on social media, for a living and make an income from social media, it matters a lot. And that is also something that we are studying the impact of that as well. Because when social media becomes your income, and your income is based upon people and their behaviors, be it whether they, and not so much whether they want to watch or not watch, but how they engage and what gets them to engage. Not only that being a part of what we study and the different demographics of what people respond to, but how they respond to it, but also what part does that play into the person and how far are they willing to go to keep an audience? And which is part of what the topic today, because well, let me throw this in first. It's election season. You guys know on Tuesday, I know over in Kansas, I'm not really sure. I don't think I've seen anything for the Missouri side, but definitely early voting is going on right now in Kansas. Definitely get out to the polls. The last day to actually vote in person is on Tuesday. So please get out and exercise your right to vote. It is your chance to be heard on all of the issues that concern you. And this is a local election for the most part. And I know you have the school board elections going on. You have some council positions that are going on, but these are things that affect your schools. These are things that affect taxes within your community. These are things you're voting on and people who will impact your children's education and what your tax dollars go towards in your city, such as the infrastructure and the roads and what your children see and how they learn, as well as who teaches them certain things. And I know the biggest thing going on in Kansas is aside from the education piece and along with the education piece is the voucher system and the banning of certain materials and teachers having the freedom to matriculate in their classes the way that they always have. And make sure that you are educated on the topics. If you don't know who your representatives are or your representative is, depending on what your district is, all of this information is online. And these people are just an email away. If you don't want to call, being that it's the weekend, you can email them and call them on Monday, certain things you don't understand, or certain things that may come across one way but are interpreted another, because there is the one bill that came across and they titled that Parents' Rights. And it will give you the impression that the legislature was now all of a sudden giving parents the right to say what did or did not happen in their child's classroom, when the truth of the matter is that parents have always had the right to say what goes on in the classroom. It's always been that way ever since I was a child. So you were never, this parents' rights thing it didn't even mention that. It did not even give you any rights to do anything. It just took away other pieces of education. So you have to be careful how things are written because language matters. And the language goes directly towards how you interpret something. And to say that you are giving a parent a right to do something implies that they did not have that right already. And we all know that that's not true. I know all of you active parents go to PTA or you are involved in your child's education and you are able to communicate with the school and with your child's teacher and all of the educators there. Every school board meeting is open to the public. Every PTA meeting is open to the public. Any parent can schedule a time to sit in the class. Any parent can volunteer to be a regular volunteer at the school where their child is. So there is nothing secret about public education that a parent did not have access to. So there is nothing that you were given the right to do that you did not already have. So with that being said, make sure that you get out and vote early, and definitely if you can't get out this weekend, make sure that you're out to vote by the time the polls close on Tuesday. So again, with the education piece and our teachers and all of that just being so important, we have found that there are a lot of teachers who have had to go to the internet to supplement their incomes. Now, some teachers have gone and they have had to, some have done tutoring services. There are some teachers who decided not to go back into the public school system. So let me start there. And that is one reason why the voting is important. Because when you pass bills that restrict a professional who has gone to school and this is their life's labor, and being a teacher is a very, very special field. And it's one of those fields where you're connecting with people, you're connecting with children, they're connecting with our children. And honestly, teachers spend almost more time with our kids than we do. So they take their job, and I don't want to say very seriously, but there's an emotional part to it as well. But when you come in and you politicize education and you throw in things that are not true, and then you throw in things that make it difficult for a teacher to do her job, his or her job, and you make it uncomfortable, or you make it unsafe because you are also not supporting laws that keep teachers and the children safe in the classroom, or you are trying to pass laws that give the illusion of safety, such as arming teachers when they specifically tell you that this is not what we want, but you want to force them to do it. There are teachers who will just flat out say no and who will not do it. And that is what we are seeing across the metro on both the Kansas and the Missouri side. Now, a lot of people, and I mean, it's impacting the families because some people are, or were excited. I know a lot of the kids were excited when the school systems started a conversation about the 4-day school week, because it meant just 4 days of school, right? They didn't have to go to school the whole 5 days. However, you have to think about working parents. And I'm talking about working parents who have younger children who are not able to stay at home alone. So even though they're excited that they don't have to go to school 5 days a week, there is going to be that extra cost of finding a babysitter or a caregiver for that child on that day. And then you have those families in the marginalized communities who depend on our school system for safety. We have houseless children who go to school, and school is that distraction, and it's also a form of safety because it brings them out of the elements, out of the weather, be it hot or cold, and it also feeds them. So that is a day that a child is particularly, again, subjected to whatever harm or difficulty they face just being a part of that marginalized community. and also that parent faces by now having to figure out what to do in regards to having a child at home now who's not able to be home alone. And that could very well be an added expense. Now, there are some schools who came up with some sort of tutoring. I know the YMCA and certain boys and girls clubs were open, and that's fantastic. However, there are not enough boys and girls clubs and YMCA's to take care of an entire school district, right? So that's not that does not solve the bigger problem. But even though that sounded great, decreasing the days that you go to school, that is also because of the teacher shortage. And again, the teacher shortage came about and it's here because of the laws that have been passed and a lot of things that happened around C-19, but definitely a big piece of it is because these teachers are saying no. Either we don't feel safe in the classroom, or no, we are not going to abide by these new guidelines, and you're not going to restrict me to teach information that I know is not true, or you're not going to control the information that I teach to students. And now I have to follow a curriculum from a politician and not from a teacher. So the ones who just flat out said no and left teaching as a whole, some came to online platforms. Some of those teachers, former teachers, chose to take the homeschooling route, and they became tutors online, or tutoring professionals. They still stayed in the education part. However, if you guys have been keeping up with the news, you saw that there were a couple of teachers who actually lost their jobs because they came to social media platforms and went into some platforms that were inappropriate for children to be on. And again, they were platforms, or they are platforms for children to not be on, and it was not children who saw them on these platforms. It's the OnlyFans platforms specific that I'm talking about. That is, these two teachers were on. Adults were on these platforms. This is an adult platform, so I don't judge people. Whatever they were on there watching, they were watching. They're adults; they can do that. That's not even the problem for me, and big concern for me, because if these teachers are choosing to be on a platform that is for adults and that children do not have access to, then I really, I guess I hope I can get a copy of, I don't know if it's teacher policy. I don't know if it's something that's maybe in the teacher code of ethics, that they're breaking the rules by doing that. Because again, it's different if you break the law. It's different if it's prostitution. It's different, again, if they're committing a crime. It's different if they just hop onto Facebook and they're just being completely inappropriate. And again, that jumping on something public like FB or IG means that children have access to it. But OnlyFans is not like that. They were a part of a forum that is for adults. And again, from my understanding, what I know about it, because again, there are no charges. This is not anything criminal. These teachers just lost their job. But the point being is that these two teachers, and this is just in Missouri, this is happening all across the United States. If you guys look this up, you will find hundreds of cases now of teachers who have gone to OnlyFans, from everything from, doing what adults do to showing their feet, just all sorts of things that are in these complaints, but they're doing it to supplement their income. Some of them have chosen to stay in the teaching profession, and there are others who have walked away from the teaching profession and chosen to do OnlyFans, just for that reason, because they still have to live and they still have to take care of their families. So that poses two controversies. And so when you vote, when you take advantage of the things that go on in your city. Now, the bigger election is next year, 2024, when you start talking about president and things that go on in DC. But understand that everything that happens in DC is directly impacted by the things that you vote on now. Right now, with your city council, with your mayor, and with the people who live right next door and down the street from you. These are the people who educate your children. You cannot sit this out. You cannot sit and act as though or listen to the rhetoric about your vote not counting. The only time your vote does not count is when you don't vote. That's the only time you don't have a say so in what happens in this country, and that is when you don't vote. So please don't listen to the rhetoric of the uninformed people who tell you that it makes no sense to vote. When that happens, then you end up being subjected to whatever happens. And literally, it's whatever happens, because you don't know. You have no idea what a particular person is going to do when they head to their position, be it in Topeka at the State House if you're in Kansas, or Jefferson City to that State House if you're in Missouri. We're not even talking about the White House right now. Or you have no idea what that mayor is going to do of your city. You have no idea what that city council person is going to vote on, because you don't know anything about them. And these are the people who are, I know the big thing that's going on right now in Kansas City, Missouri, I want to say Jackson County, it is that the people are having a very hard time paying their property taxes. I mean, astronomical dollars. I think some of the property taxes were quadrupled. And I know that there are a lot of layers to that, but still, point being, if you don't have, and if you don't vote people in place who are going to advocate for you and who are going to sit at the table and problem solve these types of issues, or problem solve not only your property taxes, but what your neighborhoods look like, what the streets look like in your neighborhoods, how safe your schools are, the taxes that you pay on food or not pay on food, whether or not you're able to access healthcare if your hospitals stay open, whether or not you have insurance to go to the hospitals. It's your local legislatures, those people who are right there with you, and those people who at the beginning of the year are going to go back to Topeka and are going to go back to Jefferson City. They're going to be talking about Medicaid expansion. They're going to be talking about Social Security. They again are going to be talking about abortion issues. And I was just having this conversation earlier. As hard as everyone fought, as hard as the women got together, and a lot of men too, got together and voted for for the Vote No campaign last November. The issue with that is, yes, we stopped them from making those restrictive laws, that particular law, go into effect. However, if you continue to vote for the same legislators who wrote that bill, if you continue to vote for that person and keep sending them back to Topeka, then you're going to keep getting the same bills. Or if you don't vote for the person who is running against that legislator, And if you don't vote to support the people who supported getting rid of that vote no bill, then you are going to keep sending the same people there to just come up with another way in. And so, for example, again, we went through all of that to not have that amendment added to the Kansas Constitution to put more restrictions on reproductive care. Because reproductive care is so much more than abortions, but that's all they wanted to focus on. Thankfully, we were able to educate people on that. However, it is imperative that you understand that the people who wrote that bill went back to Topeka, said, okay, stop this amendment. We cannot add this language to the Constitution. So what we are going to do is we are going to start attacking the pharmacies. We are going to make it hard for the women to get the medications to have these procedures. And again, these are politicians, these are not doctors. Because the harm in that, also, these medications also help people with rheumatoid arthritis. They help people with some degenerative diseases and other issues. It just was not about that. But they only have one agenda, and it was to stop and to be retaliatory towards not getting that amendment passed. Not only did they do that, if you notice, they came back and they made all of these restrictions on telehealth. So it used to be that you could have the appointment online with your physician, and your physician could call in the script. You can go pick up the script and take the medication. And this is your primary care physician and someone that you know or that knows you. And of course, anyone who's ever been through that, you know that you're not just dialing up someone on the phone, or you're not Zooming with a healthcare professional and they're just writing you some prescription willy-nilly and you're at home being posed with some danger. Because again, none of this is anything new. All of this is decades that has been going on, but all of a sudden the Kansas legislature decided that it was a problem. And that there's now all of these dangers in it without any proof, because there's not any. There wasn't any proof to look for because there's just not any. These, the Prestidone, all of these medications are safe, okay? So with that being said, what they did with the telehealth was they passed a bill that made it difficult put more restrictions, I will say first. They put more restrictions on how you receive the telehealth. So, and when I say this, I want you to think about those marginalized communities that I just spoke about a little bit ago. People who are in rural areas where there aren't any hospitals and they have to drive maybe 30 minutes to an hour to get to a hospital. But it's not like Kansas City. They're in rural areas, so they can't just get on, they just can't get on the metro. They can't get on the bus and get to the hospital. They can't just get in an Uber and get to where they need to go. So telehealth, which they've been doing forever, is the best thing that has ever happened to them for a myriad of reasons, not just for reproductive health. But like I just said before, the politicians saw a way in to make it difficult, just to be retaliatory against the Vote No campaign failing for them. For them, it was great for us, failed for them. So what they did was, you can't just have the appointment online. they made a case about it being dangerous. And so now you have to go in to the physician, and I can't remember if it's you have to go in before they will prescribe it to you or a certain time after. And then they also wanted this other language added to it. And it's very interesting because you have to look this up because these people are not doctors. And the one doctor that I do know that was a part of this, he lost his license. He's not even a medical doctor anymore. And he is also one who was deemed by the licensing board because he was promoting medication that didn't work for C19. But yet, for whatever reason, he was still, they still listened to him. And I just don't understand why. But either way, again, he lost his license for a reason. But with that being said, these restrictions make it difficult for women to be able to get the care that they need. And even though that we stopped that amendment from passing, they will backdoor and just try it another way. And even, I don't know if it was just the last day of actual session, or if it was the last week, but there was a young lady who stood up. And I want to say that this young lady was a young girl. She introduced another bill, the exact same bill that we have voted against, that the majority of Kansas voted against. And the same thing is going to happen because you have the same people there. It will make it through committee and it will make it to both houses, and it could end up passing or it could end up on the ballot again. Who knows? It could end up passing and not even be on the ballot. Who knows? But what I do know is that if you don't get out there and if you don't get to the polls and if you don't take this thing serious and if you don't get involved and know the people who you're voting for, and not only know them, but engage with them and hold them to task. It's okay to say to them, I feel this way about this issue. This issue impacts my community this way. This issue impacts my job this way. This issue impacts my children's education this way. I want to know your stance on it. What is your long-term goal for this particular action, whatever that may be? And I want you to know that in order to get my vote, I want to know where you stand in it or stand on it. And if our vision aligns for what happens in this city, that I live in. And then, because if it doesn't, then I'm going to vote for the other person. And then also remember that I not only am I watching, I'm watching to make sure, because everything is public information. You can go online and find out what every single senator, representative, every bill that they vote on is public information. So you can also say that if I find out that you are in office and you have voted against something that you said that you would vote for, but you just said that to my face, being completely dishonest because you wanted my vote, but I see that you voted against what you told me, then understand that you won't have my vote next election. And then, because I have this now documented right here and I have this recorded right here, and I'm during your next campaign, if you do choose to run, I am going to let the voters know that you are a dishonest person, that you're a liar. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to hold people to task. And so then these politicians will know that you mean business. They know that you are engaged, and they will know that your voice is going to be heard. And that is how you make your difference. And that is how you make yourself seen. And that is how you make your vote count. And I don't care what it is. It can just be about the streets in your neighborhood. It can be about, let's see what's big in Kansas City, Missouri. Some of the citizens, the piles of trash that piles up in the city, or some neighborhoods have become dumping grounds. If the city is taking this money, you want to know where that money is going, and you want a detailed accounting of that money. Why are they not paying local companies, small businesses to handle this? Because that definitely is putting money back into local families, and it is putting money back into the immediate community rather than these huge corporations getting it. But you also know that it's being done. It could also be a part of some job training program for maybe the houseless population that you are trying to make this program for, that I haven't read. But again, it can be part of what you are paying your tax dollars for. Whatever it is, you have the right to do that. You vote these people into office. I don't care what their position is. You can have respect for the position. You can have respect for your city council members. You can have respect for the mayor of the cities, but understand that that is where it stops. That's the respect. You are the person who holds the power, because they have their job because of your vote. Unfortunately, some of them have their jobs because you didn't vote. And that's the problem. That is the problem. If we start to realize that these people that we hold in the wrong kind of esteem, and I mean the wrong kind, because like I said, no one is above the voter. They have their jobs because you put them there, and they could easily not have their jobs because you decided to put someone else there. But make sure that someone else is there because you voted them in, not because you stood back and decided not to vote for anyone. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. Get involved. Get to the polls. Find out what that issue is. It is not too late to talk to these candidates. It is not too late to find out where they stand. It is not too late to find out how their decisions, how they are going to vote when it comes to education, when it comes to funding, be it with school vouchers or where your tax dollars are going, how they are going to influence other politicians in the city. When it comes to the judges, especially people in family courts, you guys know already, I have a huge federal lawsuit that's getting ready to come down the pipes. I've already stopped a couple of people right now that I'm just so happy and thanking God for right now. There's a lot of things that have transpired over the years about to finally come to an end, but it is politicians who put judges on the bench, cricket judges on the bench, and cricket attorneys as well. And so your vote matters. Your vote matters. Just as Kansas City is dealing with Governor Parsons right now, who has the potential to pardon the man who murdered Cameron Lamb. The cop, the dirty cop who murdered Cameron Lamb. Voters put that man in office. The voting population has more power than any politician. You all decide who takes these positions. You all put the right people in office. You don't have to worry about whether they're going to be dishonest judges who convict the wrong person, or crooked judges who are out for money and separate families, or crooked politicians who put crooked judges in there to do their bidding. You won't have to worry about that if you get involved. So please get out to the polls by the time they close on Tuesday and exercise your right to vote. But with that being said, I do thank you guys so much for tuning in again with me with Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay. And I do hope to see you guys again on the third Sunday. And I would just like for you all to take care of the men in your life. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month for Movember. And encourage the men in your life to man up in a good way and to take care of their mental health so that they can better take care of you and your family. So, again, I thank you so much for tuning in to Up Close and Culture with Dr. Karasay, and I see you on the third Sunday. Bye.
All right, good show.
So